Ciao, ciao. Guy here, back from the island of Capri. Imagine my joy when I returned to the States to find out that the 49ers have the fifth best receiving core in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Trevor Sikkema says the Niners receiving core is unknown given Ayuk, McCaffrey's limitations, but if they're healthy alongside George Kittle, Jennings, Pearsall, the group deserves the benefit of the doubt, even without Deebo Samuel. We've got a quote off today in this corner from Teddy Roosevelt. Comparison is the thief of joy. Great quote. Does not apply to football off seasons. In fact, I think the opposite. I've learned this over many years of covering college football too. You look at a college football team, you go, I don't think their quarterback's good enough. And then you look at all the other quarterbacks, you go, nobody's quarterback is good enough. The 49ers receiving core, judged by the Niners history, like you think about the 2019 team that went to the Super Bowl with Emmanuel Sanders, the leading receiver from the receiving core on the team, and he only played 10 games. George Kittle led the team, started 14. Deebo had not blown up and glown up yet. He was just a rookie. And that was more than good enough to get to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Comparison is the thief of joy. I'm shocked if you just said, is this the fifth best receiving core in the NFL? My answer would be no. But what's PFF and Trevor Sikkema's logic? Well, McCaffrey's a great receiver. Kittle's a great receiver. Juwan Jennings a good receiver. At some point, Ayuk comes back, and he's going to be, closer to what he was 2 years ago than what he was last year. I tend to think eventually he'll get there. I don't know. He's an ACL and an MCL. But I do tend to think eventually he'll get there. But I think the quote that wins in the quote off today is Voltaire. I'm back from seeing the David and Michelangelo. Well, that is Michelangelo. Da Vinci. Perfect is the enemy of good. I think that really applies to this receiving core, because if you had asked me before I went on my jaunt through Rome, Florence, and Capri, I would have said I just watched OTAs, and it is the most uninspiring receiver group I've seen them have. And I remember last year watching them without Ayuk and without Pearsall going like, it's just Deebo. Well, now it's no Pearsall and no Ayuk and no Deebo. You're like, well, at least Juwan Jennings is killing it in practice. The shine maybe a little bit off of Jordan Watkins. Even if you like DeMarcus Robinson, he's probably missing the first 3 games. So what do they got? Well, they still got Kittle. They still got McCaffrey. Fifth best seems crazy. Good enough? Good enough's not crazy. Good enough, not crazy. I think if you looked around the league and said, well, how many teams would be happy just to have 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen back? Whatever you think. You saw the Jeff Schwartz video about the offensive line that I put out. Great job by Connor on that. McKivitz, Pooney, Brendel, Williams, whatever you think of Brendel, whatever you think of McKivitz. Like, the Lions just had the best center in the NFL for the last several years, Frank Ragnow, retire. Like, that's a big deal. That's tough. When he is off the field, because he's been hurt a lot, so there's a lot of stats about Ragnow off the field, Ragnow on the field. When he's off the field, they're a completely different team. Running the ball, they're not as good. It's not to say that this is legend. This is a great offensive line. It's just to say you returned 4 out of 5 out of what was, when healthy, a top 15 offensive line. I tend to think a little more optimistically about the offensive line than Jeff Schwartz did in that video. So this receiving group, top 5, my first reaction was, get out of here. My second reaction was, probably doesn't need to be. Their offensive lines, I think, probably good enough. Their receiving core, as thin as it is, if you include Kittle, that's unusual. McCaffrey, that's unusual. Then it's probably good enough, given how Kyle Shanahan has won with less than spectacular receiving cores before. The whole thing comes back to, the more I look at this, the more we all look at it, Ricky Pearsall's health, it's a big deal. Michael Williams' health and Alfred Collins' health is a bigger deal. I thought it was interesting. I don't know, did you see George Kittle on with Rich Eisen. I guess that was Monday. I know he's on Bussing with the Boys Tuesday. But he was, as you would expect, I mean, Kittle's complimentary. He's a very good teammate, good spokesman. He had a lot of things to say about how much they're happy to have Robert Saleh back and the impact that he thinks Robert Saleh is going to have on this team. If you asked me right now, as I'm thinking about it, like if you could guarantee one thing, all the receivers are healthy, like the receiving group, not Kittle and McCaffrey, because you need them healthy. If you said like, maybe a better way to say it is like, does Ayuk play 13 games or 9 games? I'm like, well, okay. I mean, like probably closer to 9 than 13. But if you told me they can stop the run, I'd say that's fine. Kittle, McCaffrey, Jennings, good enough. I personally, and I know Trevor wrote, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll see. Let's just watch. Let's watch training camp in however many days. Can Ricky Pearsall make it through training camp healthy? Like I have a hard time just assuming that's going to happen. But I do think you can make assumptions about what Jennings is going to give you and what Kittle's going to give you. And even if he's not peak dynamic running back Christian McCaffrey, what he gives you is a receiver, those 3 guys, and half a season maybe of Ayuk, you got something. 4 returning starting offensive line, not great, but it works. Can you stop the run? When I wrote out the Niners depth chart upon my return from the aisles, well, not really the aisles, just one aisle, there's just one glaring thing that stands out to everybody. And when you see it on paper, it really jumps out. It's not just that you're kind of projecting 2 rookies among the 4 starting on the defensive line, but that both of them finish OTs and minicamp hurt. That's the bigger issue. And I think you go back to the perfect is the enemy of good. Nobody this time of year is really fully satisfied. Not many teams, at least. We got a lot of this and a lot of that. Even the Lions, who you love their playmakers, they lose their center and they're replacing Ben Johnson and they're replacing their defensive coordinator. I think when you get so hyper-focused on a team, and that certainly happens in college and definitely, you just forget that you forget, but like it's a salary cap sport and nobody gets to have a perfect team. Nobody gets to have 2 lockdown corners and 2 premier edge rushers and a star quarterback and a clear number 1 and number 2 receiver with a multi-talented tight end and running back and 5 returning offensive linemen that the whole fan base loves. Nobody gets to have that. And it's not to say the Niners don't have plenty of concerns and holes. They absolutely do. I'm just saying they're on defense. You can overcome the concerns, I think, in the receiving group because you got 2 other positions that catch the ball. But, this I heard some of this like D Winters is looking better stuff. That's got to happen in games when teams are tricking them and running fast and hard to the ball isn't good enough. The safety position, big shrug. Stop the run, shrug. Edge rush, shrug. I don't know. Micah Williams, we'll see. Like I'd feel better if people were healthy. We know one of the biggest keys to Niners season this year is health, and they're not fully healthy right now. Some of that stuff old, like Malik Mustafa and George Odom and Brandon Ayuk. Some of it new, like Ricky Pearsall and Michael Williams and Alfred Collins. So that's the concern. But I heard I was watching Mayoko, unrelated to this. Mayoko's like, I don't know where you'd rank this receiver group. I don't think he'd seen this PFF list because it came out Monday. I was grinding hard on watch and read and listen to pods and all that stuff coming back because I was pretty unplugged in Italy. Thanks, by the way, to everybody. I got emails to guy@heyguy.co, a lot of Instagram DMs. A lot of you have been beating me to Italy. First the Romans, then you beat me to Italy. I'd never been. It was amazing. A lot of you gave me some really good recommendations, more that I could use, but I appreciated all of it. Some very good food, as you would expect. And now I can answer any Italy-related questions that you may have. I'm not going to bother Like, I'm not doing Trevor Sikkema ranked all 32 receiver groups. I'm not diving in. Oh, I think they're 9. No, I think they're 5. That doesn't matter to me. What's more interesting to me is that, like, everybody has so many. You remember, was it last year you come into the year like, oh, the Packers so deep. He's got them ranked 21st. It turned out they got no aces, right? Rafael Devers, watch that press. I am all in. I had to get this video done today so I get locked in for Giants baseball tonight. I am all in on. I might watch 9 innings tonight. I might watch all 8.5 innings tonight. Rafael Devers, pretty sweet. All right, that's that. What do you think? Overly optimistic on the offense? Their offense was good last year. They're going to throw the ball a lot. Ciao, ciao.